Welcome back to another episode of Generation and Generation Cowboys and Sports Talks. You're looking at the host, DJ. I tell you what, and I'm joined with my co-host, my dad, Capricorn One, Cowboy Joe 64, aka Capricorn One on Twitter, and we're back with another episode. We got one more game left in the season, and so this is around the time that the coaching carousel is going to begin, and going to be talking about free agents, who should be brought back, and so there's a lot that we have to dive into and discuss. So you want to say what's up to everyone and kind of um, say what you think about the coaching carousel and whatnot.
What's up, everybody? Talking about the coaching carousel. So we're kind of hearing a few things about McCarthy. You seem to think that it's pretty certain that he's coming back, and
Yeah,
you were mentioning some other teams might be interested in talking to him. I think a lot of that is coming from his agent. That's what the agents do. They just put stuff out there so that they can make it seem like there's some interest with other teams, and the Saints, the Bears, they could be interested. So what are you hearing?
that's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing that they could be interested if it's not a done deal with Dallas, which I think that it is a done deal with Dallas. I feel like that's just the goal of the Joneses for it to be a done deal. I think it will come down to negotiation as far as who's calling plays, and my honest opinion on that is that I don't think, me personally, I don't think the Joneses care about if he calls plays or not. I don't think they're concerned about that. I think they'll bring him back and let him call plays. I believe that they do because he has a strong talking point on what he could say to them to make them agree to that. And plus, with them, I believe that if they offer him a contract and they know that no other coaches is going to take that low amount of money. If he asks for more money and if his sticking point is pay, you know, let's just say um that he does say that he'll take less or not, more than what he was making last year, but less than what the average coach is making. To them, that all bets are off. They'll sign at that point. They'll say, you know what, we're not paying anyone else anything, and if he wants to make 7 million APY, if he wants to make that 7 million instead of five, and he's okay with that, all bets are off. We're signing him. He can call plays. He can do whatever he want to do as long as we don't have to pay him all this money. And so I think that's kind of where it's, to me, that's where it's going. But like you said, these other teams might drive a wedge in that if they offer him more money, and so it's just going to come down to negotiation. I don't think the Cowboys want to do a coaching search. I mean, it really was really surprising and shocking to me is that we've been saying these things for a while now, but the other content creators and even the content creators that are close to home, like the ones that are close to the organization, they're even saying those things that the Joneses don't want to do um the hard work as far as hiring coaches, and coaches right now is going on right now. Mike Vrabel had a good interview with the Jets. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he takes a visit to New Orleans. All these teams are getting active right now, and the Joneses are not doing nothing. And that's always how it is. And even with Mike McCarthy, we knew that we were looking for a new coach when they got rid of Jason Garrett. There was not rumors about who they would be bringing in or anything like that. And we knew we had no idea Mike McCarthy was even going to be. With the moment that we knew Mike McCarthy was being interviewed, we knew that was going to be the hire, and it was. They interviewed Marvin Lewis for the Rooney Rule, and then they hired Mike McCarthy. I mean, it was a rumor until it wasn't. It was like McCarthy is here, he's spending the night, he's hired. And the same thing before that with Jason Garrett. They didn't interview a lot of people. There was no rumors or none of that. It wasn't a lot of
Mm-hmm.
rumors. It was just like we knew for a fact it was going to be Jason Garrett, and it was. So it's just like the only person that fits that mold right now is Kellen Moore. That's it. We know for a fact, everyone in Cowboy Nation know for a fact that if Mike McCarthy is not brought back as the head coach of this organization, the Joneses are going to interview two people. They're going to interview someone for the Rooney Rule, which is going to be Al Harris probably because they don't have to do no work. They don't want it to be swayed, and then they're going to interview Kellen Moore, and then they're going to hire Kellen Moore. That's what I'm thinking is going to how it seems to be that it will go. I think that's exactly how it's going to go if he's not brought back.
So I listened to it's a show called Cowboys Collective, and shout out to them. So they got Foster King, John Mashodas on there. So shout out to them. So this was probably on Tuesday or Wednesday night. They seem a little encouraged that they believe that he's going to interview Ben Johnson. That's what their thought is. Now, like you said, we're not going to know until we know. It could easily be that they've already made a decision to bring McCarthy back. There's no reason for them at this point not to just say that he's coming back. So, and we know he's got until January 14th. They have exclusive rights with him until January 14th. So no other team can talk to him until after that date. So if they're going to hire him, they're going to be doing it sometime between the game Sunday and the 14th. That's when they're going to have the chance to negotiate with his agent. He has a new agent, as we've spoken about before. He's going to want more money. The play calling thing, Nick Eatman, DallasCowboys.com, shout out to him. It was his thought a few days ago that if McCarthy is brought back, he was hearing that they're going to want somebody else to call the plays. So at the end of the day, we're not going to know until we know. We're going to have to just the great thing is that you got content creators out there like us, so we're going to be able to just kind of watch this from day to day and just kind of see what happens. But if I had to bet on it, I agree with you. He's coming back. The only question is going to be, is he going to be calling plays or is somebody else going to do it?
Yeah, and see and like I said, really, that's also to me. Like I said, I've been saying it the whole time. That's the hire. So if he does that, if someone else is going to call plays, that's going to be a lot of work for the Joneses, and because it wouldn't make sense for, I mean, them to bring him back and then he's not calling plays, but then he hires the offensive coordinator. That wouldn't
So,
make too much sense.
well, let me tell you the way that it wouldn't be a lot of work. So just throwing out a name. So let's just say the New Orleans Saints, they're gonna just go with a whole nother staff. So Wes Phillips is their offensive coordinator. So he's a West Coast scheme guy. He actually was a part of this organization at one time. So if they wanted to hire Wes Phillips, it wouldn't really be a whole lot of work. It would be a pretty easy transition for them. It'll be an easy transition for Dak. So that's basically one that it wouldn't require a whole lot of work. The work would come in where if they were, doing good hiring, they would interview Wes Phillips and three other guys. That's where the work comes in. But for them, just picking up the phone and calling Wes Phillips and hiring him is probably not a whole lot of work.
Yeah, and I think that that's what they should do. Um, and so hopefully that works. I mean, like I said, I can see easily why Chicago or New Orleans will be interested in Mike McCarthy. I mean, he's not a bad coach, I guess you can say that. He's just not a good play caller. His system is outdated, and it just doesn't do the things that these new offensive gurus do. So he's not an offensive guru. He's not that. He's an offensive coach. But at this point, we're gonna see. I mean, we won't know until we won't know until it's done, like you said. And there was something interesting that I found out that yeah, Will McClay's contract is up. Um, this was it. I think this was his last year, and so we're gonna be somebody. I think Sean and RJ asked him about Will McClay, and he really gave a non-responsive answer.
Yeah.
But but the fact that they asked him about that, it let me know that yeah, this is his last year, and so we're gonna see what happens with Will McClay. I don't think he's gonna get any. We'll see. I don't want to say I don't think he's gonna get any interviews because we don't know that. I think what you'll see is that he's brought back, and Because I mean, like I said, all these things to me, it comes down to how much work are they going to have to do, and when I get to a point to where I say, okay, if it's just a lot of work or not, and if it's a lot of work, then I stray away from it. So I think that if they don't bring Will McClay back, then that means that who's really going to be doing the general manager job? Is it going to be Steven? Because it's not going to be Jerry. So that will require them to really put together something that they haven't done in 15, 20 years. So now they said the collective said that they think that he's going to interview Ben Johnson. Well,
That's what they believe.
if Ben Johnson, I'll put it like this: if Ben Johnson gets interviewed, Bill Johnson is Ben. If Ben Johnson gets interviewed, he's the answer.
Also, one other thing that they mentioned that I thought was interesting, there was this thing that Ben Johnson did last offseason. He told teams he wanted $15 million a year, and he kind of had like a manifesto, kind of like Bill Belichick had sent out the things that he wanted. Well, it was their opinion that so John Machota is a Detroit guy. That's where he's from. He grew up. Well, I don't know if he grew up there, but that's where he's from. So he's pretty connected with the Lions organization. He
Mm-hmm.
said it wouldn't. What what he sees happening is Ben Johnson would not ask for $15 million a year. That was just something that he just kind of threw out there.
Mm-hmm.
So that again, that's just another thing that could put him in a position to be interviewed and hired by Dallas. But I will say this: if they don't hire McCarthy, you're right. I think they're gonna interview Kellen Moore. But I think if they don't hire McCarthy, I think they're gonna interview Ben Johnson.
Well, that'd be wonderful. I mean, if they interview Ben Johnson, they getting the whole package. They getting the head coach, the offense coordinator, the general manager. They getting it all. And so, um, and like I was saying, I wanted to look it up. 15 million. That's a lot of money. But I think if I was looking correctly,
It would put him in the upper echelon of the highest paid. We know Andy Reid is 20.
right,
I think McVay is around 15.
right. That's what I was what I was getting at was that's not that's kind of average, right? I mean, you look at Andy Reid is 20. Sean Payton is 18. Mike Tomlin is 16. Harbaugh is 16.
Yeah.
Sean McVay is 15. Kyle Shanahan is 14. Harbaugh from the Ravens is 12. Dan Campbell is 11. So that's not.
Now, when you run those salaries off like that, do I think Jerry's gonna pay that? No. I think if Ben Johnson gets hired here, I don't think Jerry's gonna pay him 12 to 15 million. So that would lead me to believe that he won't hire him. But if they're saying that he will take, 8 or 9,
Oh yeah, no. Why would he take 8 or 9? And that's not the average.
you're correct.
I
But
mean,
it's a lot of coach. If you go down that list, it's a lot of good coaches on that list that's making less.
Mike McCarthy shouldn't take 8 or 9. I mean, Mike McCarthy shouldn't take 8 or 9.
Well, like I was saying earlier, he has a new agent. Mike McCarthy.
Doug Peterson is making 8.5 million with the Jaguars. Okay.
Okay, so let's go. Let's go to the other side of the coin that we're talking about right now. If I'm McCarthy, I'm not taking anything less than 8 or 9. So does that make it less likely that he gets hired by Jerry? Because I can see a scenario, we talked about it before, where McCarthy and his agent tell Jerry they want 9 million. Jerry balks at that, and they just walk. They just say, hey, like Jerry said, no El Paso. They just don't. They walk away. That's
Well,
possible.
yeah, because but it's also possible that he says we want 8. I want I'll take 8 or 9, but I'm calling plays, and then
Yeah,
Jones just say deal
yeah. I mean, that's look.
because
If they do anything above what they're doing right now, that means that they're making progress. But what they really
well,
should do is rip the Band-Aid off and just go big or go home. And that's a coach like Ben Johnson. What were you gonna say?
well, and also what I'm saying is these coaches that are making less than 4 or 5 million. I mean, less than 8 million. These are coaches that you had to do some hard work to find. I mean, Well, I mean, like Matt LaFleur, these are first time coaches. Matt
Matt
LaFleur,
Matt LaFleur is one of the best coaches in the NFL. So
right? So when his
yeah,
contract is up and he has to renegotiate, he gonna get more than 6 million. But the point I was making was
how
when he
much is
got
O'Connell for Minnesota making?
when he got offered that, he wasn't no. That was his first time probably making generational wealth.
Yeah,
Kevin O'Connell, and so like that's kind of why like the Kellen Moore type of deal would come in.
yeah.
But someone that's established, like Ben Johnson is not established, but it's just like we know he's the best of the best. So it's just like, why would he take that? But let me see. How much, who you say?
Kevin
O'Connell?
O'Connell. So O'Connell, he's doing. He's got them at 14-2. He was from the McVay tree. Um, my thing is with these coaches, you got to hire somebody that commands the room. That when they walk in the room, they own the room. That's not Kellen Moore. That's not McDaniel's from Miami. I just would not hire coaches like that.
It
And
says that.
what's happening right now, like Indianapolis,
Uh,
when they hired the coach they have, is it Shane Steichen? Is that his name? Uh,
Indian, Indianapolis.
or it's Shane Steichen with Arizona. So the Eagles had two assistant coaches. They got head coaching jobs. One went to Indy, the other one went to Arizona. And when both of those guys got hired, I said these are not good hires.
Yeah, he
These
went to
guys,
Shane Steichen is Indianapolis coach.
yeah. So you can just, to me, you can just look at guys and just tell that they command the room. They kind of have that persona. And the Indianapolis coach, he doesn't have that. Kellen Moore doesn't have it.
Uh-uh.
McDaniel from Miami doesn't have it. You just, McDaniels is just, he just kind of goofy to me. You hate to say it, and you're not gonna. Those are not head coach types, and I don't
No.
think I'm not a big fan of Atlanta's coach.
Yeah, he doesn't.
Uh,
He fits that too. He's not that. He
yeah,
doesn't. He's not a command a leader of man looking type of deal there.
yeah, and
No,
I
but
haven't always been a big fan of Todd Bowles myself.
well,
Uh,
he still looks like he still. I mean, I feel like he could be a leader, but it's just like he's a
yeah, and he
defensive.
is.
But the league has went away from his type. It's like he's a defensive coach. It's like no one's everyone's looking at their offensive coordinator. He's the guy that
Yeah.
Liam Cohen. He's the one that's drawing all the attention. So it's
Now,
like
if Tampa Bay misses the playoffs, they might be moving on from Bowles, and they'll probably hire Cohen.
of course
Uh,
their
so
fans
yeah,
is
that's
calling for it. That's what their fans is calling for. And okay, Mr. O'Connell, he makes between 5 and 7.
yeah. So he's making more than McCarthy as well.
Yeah, and and then it even says it on here. It says once his contract is up, he'll be commanding 12.
Yeah. So I mean, that's what what Jerry would do. He should just do an about face and just do a big or go home move. The fans are calling for it. We got to talk about Steven. He called into the fan on Friday, and everybody just going off because once again he's
Mhm.
singing this lullaby about the cap, and everybody at this point, somebody in the Cowboys PR staff has to be able to tell him the jig is up. There's just way too many people that understand the cap. Mike Fisher, Jeff Kavanaugh. We got Outlaw Cowboy, which is a great follow. It's so many people that understand the cap. And then what I've been chatting with people about the last few days, well, since he did that interview, is nobody would ask him. Somebody needs to ask him, have they looked at what the Ravens, the Chiefs, the 49ers, the Eagles, has anybody at the Cowboys front office talked to anybody with the Ravens, Eagles, Chiefs, and 49ers about their cap? It's just simple as that, because they have the same cap that you have, and they've done quite well with it. They've made it to NFC and AFC championship games.
I'll
And
pull a I'll pull a play out of Mike Fisher book. I was just listening to Mike Fisher, um, maybe 2 days ago. Have they asked the Eagles? Have they asked them what's going on? Well, you know what? Let me not say it like that. Have they just looked at it? I mean,
Yeah.
you don't even have to ask them. You can just see what they're doing and you can see that it works. And then see, everyone likes to talk about, like, Steven made a comment the other day on that show. Oh, the Eagles are going to have to pay the piper here in a minute anyway. No, they're not. I
Mm-mm.
don't know, understand. Like someone should have told him, Steven, that's just not true. They're not going to have to do anything in a couple years. They're going to just redo what they did this year. And even if they have to do and they have to pay the piper, so what? They went to they've been to a championship 3 times in the last 5 or 6 years, 10 years,
Mm-hmm.
because of what they're doing.
And
So
they're not concerned about it either.
and they're not talking about it to fans.
Mm-mm.
No one cares, because but the only reason why we're talking about it is because you all are failing at this
Hey, so
horribly.
one of the things I was going to ask you, because you do listen to like other content creators for other teams,
Hmm.
I'm willing to bet that the Eagles, their media, their content creators, I always throw these four teams out: the Eagles, the 49ers, the Ravens, the Chiefs. I
Hmm.
bet you their content creators and media and the team is not talking about the cap like 24/7. It's only
No,
happening in Dallas.
yeah, no. When they when the other teams talk about the cap, they're talking about the Cowboys cap and how the Cowboys are messing up the cap. That's
But
what
they
they're
talk
talking
about
about.
Dallas.
Yeah, they talk about Dallas all the time. They talk about how it's an absolute joke. How Jerry and Steven try to fool. They try to make it. They try to tell. They have the illusion that the Cowboys fans are fools for believing the Jerry Jones and the madness. Like, it was kind of almost like breaking news when the other day when we played Philly, how those how those Eagles fans were mocking Jerry. Remember how they kept
Hmm.
saying, "Oh, keep doing what you're doing, and you're doing a great job, and you keep doing, keep doing, keep running the
Because they're
organization."
educated. They know what's happening.
Right? They understand that they have twice as many, they have double the amount of star players that we do. Yet their cap situation is just fine. It'll be 10 years from now when they pay for when they pay for what they did with Saquon, but they'll have 3 championships by then, so it won't make a difference. And we won't
Yeah.
know about it because it means nothing. It's nothing. They keep talking about borrowing from the future and paying on the credit card as if this is not the way that it's set up. This is what you're supposed to do. Every team does it. It doesn't.
So
You're no different.
so one of the things that we talked about we're gonna do in our show is kind of like my background. I come from a Fortune 500, one of the Fortune 500 company, one of the best companies ever was, and
Yeah.
which was FedEx, and our competitor was, our Eagles, our 49ers, our Raven, it was UPS,
Hmm.
and they could have just at one point UPS could have just bought FedEx, and so but one thing that made us competitive with them is that we were innovative, and they were always, back in my day, you would always hear companies talk about what the Chinese is doing, because the Chinese back in the day, they were like brilliant. Everything was modeled after what they did. And so you heard a lot of people talking about that, related to FedEx. We were like ahead of what they were doing. We were always innovating. But one of the things that we did, and so what we're going to talk about in the off season is there's a science to running an organization. There's a science to hiring, which they don't use. So there's a science to how you do things and how you stay competitive.
Hmm.
And so the science part of the Cowboys, that's what they're missing. And so where I'm going with that is by now, if they were a scientific organization, I said something earlier about they need to talk to the Eagles, the Ravens, and the Chiefs. They don't need to talk to them. They can just bring another agency in to just tell them what they're doing. So they can literally just pick up a phone, make a phone call, and get analytics people, get engineers to come in and say, "Here's your cap. This is what you're doing. This is what the Eagles or the 49ers, the Ravens, and the Chiefs are doing.
Let
What
me
you
let
need to
me
do is do this."
l-
But it's amazing that they haven't done that yet,
well, let me put it like this. I'm gonna
because
tell
that's
you
what
this.
FedEx would do all the time.
They're doing it, but they're just not doing it for the football team.
Well, yeah, they're doing it for their businesses, but they're let me
Uh-huh.
make one correction. I think they have other people running their businesses. They're not.
Exactly. That's my point.
Yeah.
We still don't know what they are good at, what they are innovative in. They have not. You can't point to anything on the football field and say that Jerry and Steven innovated this. Because it was always Tom Landry. It was always Jimmy that did the innovative things on the football field.
Tex Ram.
Tex Ram. And what was the owner name when it was Tex Ram?
His name was Clint Murchison, but
Him.
he's, so the Chiefs have the
The
family.
Texans. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. The
so
Chiefs
they're
have the
what's their owner name? The Hunts. So
yeah
the
the
dad,
Hunt family.
so Lamar Hunt and Clinton Murchison for the Cowboys, they came into the NFL at the same time. Actually, the Chiefs were actually here in Dallas. I mean, you know that.
Right,
And the Hunt family, they still live in Dallas. They never moved. I
right.
don't know if you knew that. Uh, but uh, but but yeah. So one thing I was going to think about say about McCarthy, I'm just wondering if McCarthy has pulled him to the side, or well, he ain't got to pull him to the side. Just has been in meetings with them, and has he just said to Steven and Jerry, "You guys need to look at how we're managing free agency and the cap, and just look at what San Fran is doing, and let's just try to mimic that." And just so this is
I'm
just
glad you
amazing
said
to
that.
me.
I'm glad you said that because to me that's also a sticking point. I can't see that not being a part of the negotiation. My thing is just like Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson is like, listen, all this about stubbornness about how you run the organization. No, when I come in on my manifesto, I want to look at how the organization is ran, what works and what has not worked, and what we're gonna do to make it better. Okay,
No,
so
he
with
won't get
with
hired if he do that.
well, see, that's the thing that Ben Johnson, see, with us, we kind of have to hope that these other coaches and these other people that are in this business are adopting and adapting the way that each other thinks, and they're going away from it. The only people that's going to be left out is the Joneses. Like for me, if I was it's just like you said, when you pay attention to the market and when you have your ways to stay competitive as an owner, you have to network and reach out with other people that's running businesses and see how they are succeeding. And so when you are a coach, you have to say, if I'm a coach right now and I'm trying to look for a job, I'm doing exactly what Ben Johnson said because it's just a good practice. I'm adapting that. I'm adopting that same rule of thumb. If you're gonna make me a coach, I want to be able to look and see what's not been working and how we can change it. Because why if McCarthy says that and he gets hired somewhere else, then we know for a fact. Because if McCarthy just leaves and doesn't get hired here and gets hired somewhere else, then we know that he probably did go into the office and say, we want to look at what San Fran is doing. We want to look at what the Eagles is doing and what the Rams have done and what all the Ravens are doing and the Chiefs are doing. And we want to mimic that. And the Joneses might just say, you know what? No, we're not doing that. And then that's the sticking point because you can't tell me McCarthy is gonna say, hey, I know that the way that you guys are running this organization is not going to work, and I'm going to
Yeah.
sign up for that.
So two things. A couple of months back, McCarthy did an interview, and one of the things that he said in the interview that caught people's
Yeah,
attention was he said that they waited too late to sign guys.
he said
So
that.
so you obviously know that's going to be a part of the discussion. But what I was going to say
Mhm.
is one thing that we might be kind of be able to be encouraged about is some of the stuff that we're wanting Jerry to do. He's done it before. Okay, so where I'm going with that is when he hired Parcells, Parcells came in and changed a lot of their practices that they did as far as scouting, drafting, bringing players in. Bill Parcells brought in a lot of players that he wanted on the team. So I said all that to say this: they know they can do it, and they've done it before. And of course, they did it when they hired Jimmy. Everything that we're talking about, that's what Jimmy did. Jimmy, a lot of the stuff that we're looking at in the NFL today with scouting and where you do players, Jimmy was the first coach that did the quarterback schools and mini camps. Nobody was doing that before Jimmy did it. Okay. So they've done it before. So what Jerry needs to do, he needs to just, let the people
Steven,
know, Steven
Steven,
know at the point that they are at now, they're going to have to make some changes and just use some of the things that you've done before. They've done it. They can do it again. You're not building a stadium, but you made a lot of changes that you had to make to get a coach and that help them get that stadium built.
Now, people might not remember this, but when Jerry had his interview, it was the interview that where he blew up on Sean, and so that interview when he blew up on Sean and told him all this about I'll get you fired, I'll find somebody else to answer all these questions, all that. Well, that next Monday they had an interview, or the next Tuesday they had an interview, and Jerry, it was like it was an unorthodox interview because normally Jerry come on and he talked to Mike Bassick and them on that day, but he didn't. He talked to Sean and RJ that day, and it was like during the day before they got off the air. And
Is
Jerry
that the
was
one
like,
when he called back in?
yes. So he called back in and he was level headed. Sound like he had probably been had a few spirits or something. He was just walking around talking. It wasn't like he was in his office like he normally is on Monday morning. He's in his office. You can hear that he's in his office. You can hear people. He got somebody next to him handing him documents and showing stats and all of that. It wasn't like that. On this day, Jerry was on the phone and he was on the phone walking around, walking and talking, walking in and out of doors and stuff like that. And he said something. He said, yeah, at the end of the season, he was like, yeah, you're right. We probably gonna go look back at some things that we did that we probably should have done better. Well, and we gonna look at that and we gonna see if we should be running things a little different. And it's just like when he said that, because they asked him, are you gonna get involved? Are you gonna get active in free agency? Or don't you think that you made, some mistakes, basically, blah, blah, blah. And he was just like, well, yeah, we gonna look at that. So to me, for him to say that, I think that they absolutely are gonna try to change some things. I think they are. Now I could just be drinking the Kool-Aid, but I think that, man, listen, I think what if one or two things happen? What if they do hire McCarthy? And what if they do hire McCarthy and hire somebody else to call plays and you utilize free agency? Nobody will have anything to say then. And then also, what if they hire Ben Johnson? If they hire Ben Johnson or interview Ben Johnson, then that's just saying everything that we just talked about will be done. So it's just like, I think that at this point, he doesn't have too much more time to be starting all over and trying to, change everything that the way that they've been doing. And he's getting to that point to where he's going to have to trust someone else to do this, and it's going to be a coach like Ben Johnson or McCarthy. Like McCarthy had to do the same thing. McCarthy last year, he had to put his pride aside and he had to say, okay, the way I'm running the offense is not really working, so I'm going to have to let Dak and CD do what they want to do to see if this works out. And it did. And so I feel like Jerry and Steven I don't see Steven doing anything. I don't think Steven is concerned about winning. I don't think that he wants to change anything. But I think Jerry does. I think Jerry wants to change some things. And I think that Jerry wants to bring back McCarthy and he wants to, you know, be more
See,
innovative.
I'm on the opposite side. I think Steven wants to bring back McCarthy. Jerry wanted to get rid of McCarthy last year,
Well, I
and
agree with that.
I also think that Steven, he wants to win, but he wants to win
His way.
within the cap. Um, and then one thing I was going to mention. So Mike Fisher, shout out to Fish, the OG. So
Hmm.
Mike Fisher has said a couple of times on his show, his understanding is Jerry believes that he's going to have a hard time selling McCarthy to the fans. That's his main concern. If he brings McCarthy back, are the fans going to buy into that? So, so that lets you know again, Jerry is not the Steven guy. Jerry is not the McCarthy guy. I meant to say, Steven is. If Jerry had it his way, he would have let McCarthy go after that Green Bay game. He would have
So
let
what do we
McCarthy go, and Jerry would have kept Dan Quinn and hired him.
so we got to wrap up. Now my battery about to die. So what do we think the problem really is and what can they do? What is the problem and what is the solution? Quick as possible.
The problem is they don't know how to manage the cap. They need to bring someone in to look at it and just look at the entire organization, even the scouting department. They have problems with the cap. They also have problems drafting that a lot of people don't want to talk about. So they need to bring somebody in to look at both the cap, free agency, and drafting.
So it's just from the top, pretty much. They look at how the organization is ran,
Yeah,
drafting, talent evaluation, and they need to look at the
the cap
salary cap.
and
Yeah, and
free
how that
agency.
right, because it's no way that the Rams can do what they did, blow it up twice, and be back on the top. There's no way that the Eagles can do what they did, blow it all up, and get two new coaches, two new quarterbacks, and be back at the top. There's no way that they can be in a better cap position than we are right now. And we've been talking about they've been so that's exactly what they need to do. And so
And when you say the Eagles or the Rams, that scares Steven off. So if they were smart, they would just talk to Steven about the Ravens and the Chiefs. Because
yeah.
the Ravens and the Chiefs, they're very conservative. They don't do a whole lot of free agency. They don't do a lot of trades. They manage their cap. They're really good at drafting. And they do smart trades. They just then in free agency, like the Ravens, they waited till right at the right moment to sign Derrick Henry. They didn't do it immediately. That's how they
Mhm.
do things. They are a very smart organization.
And see Ben Johnson, well, if Ben Johnson is hired, Ben Johnson gonna come in and he gonna have and Ben Johnson gonna say, hey, if I gotta be hired, this guy right here, this is the guy that's been running
Hmm.
the line. This is the guy that's been helping the Lions with their cap. This is the guy that's been helping them with talent evaluation. When I'm hired, he's coming too. And so
Yeah.
that right there will help the Joneses take a back seat and let some football guys do football things, in my opinion.
So, yeah, let's go ahead and wrap because I don't think I have my computer plugged up. So it's something mine finna die out too. You can go ahead and wrap.
Yeah, so make sure you all. So that's gonna be the end of this one, and you all make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. We got all of our platforms up. So follow us on TikTok, follow us on YouTube, follow us on Facebook. Um, you can shoot us an email if you have questions. It's the same as the It's so many ways to contact us. You can contact my dad on Twitter at Cowboy Joe 64, and you can type in "I tell you what" on Twitter. I'll pull right up. It's on Twitter. It's I tell you what with two T's at the end, and so I'll pull up. And so you all will be back with another one here shortly. And you all stay tuned. Anything you want to let them know before we close out?
So shout out to the Noops all across the world. Tomorrow's Founders Day. So shout out to all the brothers of Cap Alpha Psi. Shout out to the Noops.
And this will probably be dropped on the founding day. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's on Founders Day. So yeah, y'all make sure y'all shout out to all of the content creators that we mentioned today. Uh, Mike Fisher, Big Time Show. Just do a run through of the content creators real quick.
So Mike Fisher, big time show, stargazer. We talked about Jeff Kavanaugh, Foster King, Will Steele, all the OGs, Vach and Brada.
Watch,
So appreciate you
brothers.
guys. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Hmm.
shout out to the fan as well. All
Yeah.
right, so we'll see y'all on the next one. Y'all have a good night. Peace.